All right, it's 7 o'clock. Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Inform the public this is another meeting that is happening remotely. Next up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and I believe there have been 4 minutes sent to the board for review. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve. I think we could probably take these at once. The minutes of the March 10th Selectmen's meeting, the March 16th Selectmen's emergency meeting, the March 24th telemeeting, the March 31st telemeeting, and the April 7th telemeeting of the Board of Selectmen.
Great.
I'll second that motion.
Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved, thank you. Department heads and committees, Matt Tanis, our health agent. Matt, are you on?
I am, sir. I had a few things to go over. First, just an update regarding the positive cases. There's certainly a big jump within the last hour as the facility-wide testing of Life Care of Raynham just came back. Out of the 69 that were tested yesterday in that facility, 35 of them came back positive, 31 were negative, and 3 are still pending. That brings, along with the 2 residents that I had come back positive this morning from town, that brings our total positive cases to 144 within town, 85 of which are from Life Care. As a side note there, of Raynham residents that have recovered, I have 14, and Life Care residents that have recovered are 5. Total deaths, I have 3 Raynham residents that have passed away and 15 residents from Life Care that have passed away. So total deaths of town are 18. Just in regards to Life Care, the Mass Department of Public Health has finally made a visit to the facility. I believe that was on Friday morning. For the most part, what I know, what transpired was a review of infection control measures, and they assessed other needs and functions within the facility. At that time, test kits had been ordered, and of course, yesterday, the facility site-wide testing was conducted. Last Wednesday, DPH had announced and began releasing town-specific COVID-19 related numbers, not just by the county, but by the town. This will be updated weekly and will be posted Wednesday, and will include up to the Tuesday before's cases. So our cases were accurate last Wednesday, and that'll get posted weekly to our website as well. Of course, a big thank you to our school nurses, as they have been assisting me now for just over a week with some of the calls. They've been extremely helpful, and again, I really appreciate their assistance. Today, the state, we had a very lengthy webinar regarding the Community Tracing Collaborative that was announced last week. This will be a work in progress, I'm sure, but basically what it is should at any point I get overwhelmed or I can't get to some calls, I can choose to, instead of the town locally following up and contacting the positive case and getting their contacts and making calls to the close contacts, I can click an option within Maven. It'll be case specific for the state to assist, and the state has certainly gotten a large group of volunteer students and other healthcare workers to assist in this matter. Back in the middle of March, I had requested assistance by the state for personnel help, and certainly now I have the nurses helping, which is certainly a great asset. But this is, I believe, the answer to many of the towns similar to me that had asked for assistance. So officially, this will be completely operational statewide by May 1st. But since we had initially asked for assistance back in the middle to end of March, this is an option for us now as well. So there's no cost to us, and it doesn't take any of the cases away from us as far as my review of them. It just alleviates some of the excess calls that either myself or the nurses have to make. So that'll be on a trial basis, and we'll see how it goes. I think this will be especially helpful for non-English speaking contacts or cases, as the state has many people there that can assist in the multiple languages. And just a reminder, to the public, just in general, that really need to be wearing face masks when out in public. Just be aware of your social distancing, wash your hands regularly, and absolutely most important, if you think you are sick, please stay home. I can't ask that enough. And just lastly, non-COVID related, the Bristol County Mosquito Control Project will begin their aerial larvicide application of Huckamuck Swamp tomorrow, weather permitting. Be any time between, I believe, 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. It will be a low-flying aircraft. They will not be flying, or they may be flying over residents, but they will not be doing any application over residents. It is only over the swamp. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt, Mrs. Smith?
No, I don't have any questions, but I want to thank Matt for all the work that he has been doing. I know it's his job, but he's going over and above. And Matt, thank you so much. And I'm very glad to see too that the mosquito control is still willing to start the larvicide spraying, because I really think that's when you got to kill the little things.
Absolutely, ma'am. One other note, the mosquito control, we had a lot of meetings and discussion, after last year's Triple-E season, and the mosquito control is taking some extra larvicide approaches throughout May as well. They'll have some people on the ground pinpointing the target areas as well. So they're taking it seriously, and unfortunately, with all the rain and warm temperatures, I'm afraid we may be having another rough Triple-E season again.
Good,
Yeah?
thank you, Matt. Ms. Riley, anything?
Yes,
No.
Mr. Chairman, just want to, echo that and thank Mr. Tanis. When this board appointed you as our health agent, no one had any idea we'd be dealing with a pandemic, and you have just been on top of things from the beginning and working tirelessly. Glad to hear that you're getting a little assistance from the BR nurses and anyone else that can help out. And just, again, thank you for everything you're doing. And just our hearts and prayers go out to those people that we've lost, that have passed away as a result of this horrible pandemic.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Ed Buckley, our highway superintendent. Ed, are you with us still?
I am. I have some updates from the highway department for this month. Update hopefully on the winter operations. We had a parking event this past Saturday, would be our 11th event of the season, which we had to respond to in the early morning. Our budget is approximately $148,000. That should be close to the final total. We have about 1,000 tons of salt remaining in the shed to start next season. Continuing on, we have Highway and Parks working on storm cleanup from the windstorm we had last week. We're planning to start our street sweeping and sidewalk cleaning operations along with that storm cleanup. And also our goal is to get all the main roads swept and assist with installing flags before Memorial Day. Grass mowing season is also beginning, and we're began today doing town properties. We'll probably be modifying the areas we're cutting currently due to the conditions of the pandemic. Completed cutting of drainage easements. Prior to this, we received bids on the White Street footbridge, and I have a letter from our engineer recommending to award to the low bidder for $474,215. I'll be submitting a letter to the board recommending a vote to approve that. We're also progressing on our Chapter 90 project requests for the footbridge, paving a portion of North Main Street near the Center Street intersection to the Bridgewater line. The remaining portion of Britton Street between Route 138 and Center Street, and also a list of roads provided by the sewer department for their contract 1 and contract 2 sewer project roads that were completed last year. We're gonna do a phase of those in the spring and another phase in the fall to hopefully wrap up about 90% of that work. We're currently doing our permitting through email for transfer station passes as well as property development permits. That seems to be working okay. Regarding the transfer station, the operation up there is going well. I think the public has adjusted to our current schedule, and as a reminder, that schedule is Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays all day from 7 to 4:15. Currently closed on Wednesday and Friday, along with our usual Sunday and Monday. The brush pile is scheduled to reopen on May 2nd, Saturday, between 8 and 1 p.m. And a reminder on the hazardous waste day is coming up Saturday, July 11th. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions for Ed, Mrs. Smith?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Ed. Just one thing though, yes. Was there much damage when we had that last storm?
The windstorm?
Down.
The windstorm, Mrs. Smith?
Yeah.
Quite a bit of trees and branches, so we've got a lot of work, probably got a few weeks worth of work cleaning up out there. But we came in during the storm, actually kept some staff in. We assisted TMLP during the storm as well as the fire department and moved things out of the road, getting everything safe. And then we need to go back now and clean everything up.
Okay. There was no serious damage anywhere though, was there?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Well, there was, I believe there was one residence. I'm not sure if that's this exact event, but Ramblewood damage to the residence.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Ms. Riley, any questions?
Well, just again, thank you to our highway superintendent and everything his department is doing. Just one question for you, Mr. Buckley. Is our transfer station still not taking bottles?
That's correct. That's correct. The bottles currently should be disposed of in the regular trash. And the reason being is there's a lot of hand contact with the bottles from the residents. And then again, the crew has to pick them up by hand off a table and put them into a container. So we felt that the risk wasn't worth the reward, particularly where the glass recycling market is a problem at the moment as far as reuse.
Thank you for explaining that, Mr. Buckley.
You're welcome.
You all set, Ms. Riley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. That's it for department heads. Next up, appointments. We have the reappointment for Constable of Brad Pagan that was in our packets. What's the board's pleasure?
I move to reappoint as long as the chief okayed it.
Yep.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Next up, Town Administrator's report, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The town hall generator installation has been completed with the new gas meter installed yesterday. It should be all set to function and as predicted, and will kick on when the power goes out, knocking on the proverbial piece of wood. Extended tax deadline has been advertised, along with the treasurer collector's ability to defer fees and penalties. More info can be found on the town's website or by calling the treasurer collector's office at 508-824-2702. Along those lines, the sewer commission is also waiving interest and demands on late payments. The town warrant continues to be assembled in preparation for the annual town meeting. I don't know, I'm not sure on the date of the first day of summer, but our annual town meeting might now be a summer town meeting. South School pipe burst has been repaired and the affected area has been cleaned of debris. With assistance from Mike Doyle, our plumbing inspector, and Bob Iafredi, we're also sourcing quotes to replace the leaking water heater. North School sustained some minor damage during the recent windstorm last week. The chimney lost its cap and a utility box fell off the side. These items are being repaired and no permanent damage has been caused to the building. Upcoming business, we have a virtual department head meeting this coming Thursday via our GoToMeeting service. This will allow department heads to check in with each other and allow us to communicate on any matter relevant to town business, something we haven't had the opportunity to do in almost 2 months. Quick shout out for Kyla, our Raynham Food for Vets. I forgot to mention 2 weeks ago that when this first event took place, there's going to be a second event coming up this Friday, May 1st at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Raynham Senior Center, where there will be a food distribution for all Raynham and surrounding town veterans, surviving spouses, and Gold Star family members. This is in coordination with the Massachusetts Military Support Foundation and Raynham's very own Veteran Service Officer. Pre-registration is required, and you're asked to bring your DD-214 and ID card. The Selectmen's next regularly scheduled meeting will be on Tuesday, April 28th at 7 p.m. via telemeeting, I presume. Instructions for public participation will be posted with the agenda. And as always, Mr. Chairman and Select members, I thank you to our police officers, firefighters, and our health agent who continue to face a level of uncertainty with each call that comes in and personal contact they make, which is potentially a COVID-19 case. That is all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Mrs. Smith, any questions?
I do not. I'm glad you're going to get the hot water heater fixed over at South School, though. That's been leaking, I guess, for a while. I don't want it to burst before we get it done. And yeah, that North School, it seems as though the chimney lost its cap. Well, better check to see that there's no water in that room where the storage boxes are, because that's why we put the cap up there. The water would come down the chimney and into that room. So check on that for me, Graham, okay? And
Will do, especially
okay.
today's rainstorm.
Ms. Riley, any questions?
No, thank you to our town administrator for his efforts. Just one clarification, Mr. Chairman, that food for vets distribution effort is going to be on Friday, May 1st, a week from this Friday. You're rushing it a little bit, Mr. Town Administrator. It's a week from Friday, not this Friday. That's all I. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Waters, just curious, can you provide us a timeline on the generator? Because while I'm happy to see that it's now happening, I did speak to somebody at Columbia Gas, and they said in a general sense, typically municipalities get turnarounds in a couple weeks. So I'm just trying to figure out where the ball was dropped, whether it be our end or on Columbia Gas's end. Is that something you think you can turn around for us?
Yeah, I can have the building inspector present at the next meeting history of the timeline.
That would be great.
Sort of where what sort of delayed the process. A lot of it has to do with the meter and the undersizing of the meter. But yeah, I'll have him present.
That would be great. Thank you. All right, Selectmen's report. Mrs. Smith, anything this evening?
No, I'm just pass my condolences to everybody, those who have lost loved ones and those who are sick. I'm very sorry to hear that. I wish there was something we could all do to straighten this whole mess out. I know there's not. I'm very sorry for the people over at Life Care, that they don't deserve whatever they're getting here with this foolish virus. But that's about all. I really don't have anything. Those of you who are still well, stay home.
All right, thank you.
Do everything that Matt tells you to do.
All right, thank you. Miss Riley, anything for us?
No, as always, I would echo Mrs. Smith's comments and our town administrator's comments to our police and fire, who are certainly, as we said before, our heroes. They're on the front line and doing an awesome job, and we so appreciate it. I just have one other thing, Mr. Chairman. At last week's meeting, you proposed a policy to ensure equitable communication. And obviously, I know where you're coming from, and it's very clear. But thinking about it, I probably should, shame on me, should not have voted to approve it without seeing it in writing. And it happened to bring to mind if we could perhaps formulate a policy on policies. I know many committees have policy making is one of the most important roles that we have as selectmen. And I think, many boards have a procedure where a policy needs to be in writing before it's brought to an agenda. And then if it's just an amendment to an existing policy, there are certain procedures. If it's a new policy, you have to have maybe 2 readings so that there's room for discussion before you actually vote on it. I've got a few ideas about that. If I could forward that to our town administrator, Mr. Chairman, and he could perhaps put something together for us to consider.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's all I have right now.
Okay. The only thing I have is relative to unemployment. The state continues to expand their efforts to address the continuously rising unemployment claims. And a piece of information that they are trying to circulate is that the Division of Unemployment Insurance will be returning phone calls 7 days a week until 8 p.m. And so if you filed for unemployment or have called for assistance, you could get a phone call from the Division of Unemployment Assistance 7 days a week until 8 p.m. And the phone number should appear on your caller ID as 617-626-6800. And so if this is applicable to you, keep an eye on that and answer your phone, because the quicker they are able to get a hold of you, the quicker they can close out your claim. That is all I have. Emergency business COVID-19 related items. Does the board have anything, Mrs. Smith?
No.
Ms. Riley?
No, I have nothing additional. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, citizen and community input. If anybody wishes to speak, please just state your name and address prior to speaking, because we can't tell who you are. Anybody from the public? Okay. We will move on. New business.
Joe, this
Yeah.
is Mike. This is Mike from Raycam. We've no comments online either.
All right. Thank you, Mike. New business proposal for discussion and action, absorbing the 25-cent clearinghouse transaction costs. This is to allow residents to pay online without incurring a fee, and this would go either through the health emergency or June 30th, 2020 to keep it within the fiscal year. What's the board's pleasure?
I've read that and I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yes, it will be. I move to accept it.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
As
Aye.
approved. Thank you. Next is the proposal and discussion to use funds from the Mass Gaming Grant account to pay for the government study committee's recommended bylaw not to exceed 12 grand. This was the town administrator's request to put on the agenda. Does the board have any comments or desire to act on this?
Well, I just received the general code proposal, and obviously I haven't had time to read it yet because I just got it. I would say yeah, I would move to accept that as long as it's not over $12,000.
All right, so that's a motion.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman. This was one of the articles basically that we proposed for the annual town meeting. And if we have the funds to take care of that now, I think that's all well and good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next is the proposal request to permit a temporary mobile home due to a tree down at 195 Ramblewood Drive. What's the board's pleasure?
Well, we have done that in case of fire, and I can obviously see if the tree went down on a house, she's not going to be able to live there. So I would move to accept that.
And I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Next is the proposal on the Family First Coronavirus Response Act permitted use of personal leave. This is if an employee of ours elects to take leave under that. It's a prorated balance, and this would allow them to offset that with leave time that has been accrued, so they receive a full paycheck. What is the board's pleasure?
I don't have a problem. I'll move to accept it.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Next is the respective roles and responsibilities of the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, and how the new job description of the Town Administrator impacts town operations. Mr. Waters, I will defer to you to start off this conversation if you'd like.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since my time coming on board with the town, there's been some confusion about both on my end and on others about my role as the town administrator. One example I'll point out to is shortly after I started, within first few weeks, a couple of you came into my office to discuss the oversight of the police and fire department. As I was made aware that the Board of Selectmen have direct oversight over the police and fire department, and as it was described in my old job description, it apparently was left out of the new job description. I've talked with each of you individually about my job description. I did distribute a highlighted copy of that description with areas I had questions on. So my desire is to get more clarification about my job description. If there's things in there that the Board of Selectmen are unsure about, or if there's things that need to be edited, but I've been trying to go off my job description as the town administrative officer and chief operating officer of the town, and using that description to provide oversight for what I'm responsible for and not responsible for. It did take me a little bit of time to figure out that some of the departments with the independently elected boards do not come under my purview. However, there are a slew of departments that are appointed by the Board of Selectmen that including the health department, or yes, the health department, which I'm not sure, it's still sort of a gray area. I'd like some clarification on that. I'll just put that out there to start with.
Okay. Mrs. Smith, Ms. Riley, any comments?
No, I don't know if I have any comments or not. Go ahead, Pat. You got any?
I just want to make one comment, and then actually, if possible, if we could take this, maybe table this for further consideration, Mr. Chairman. We just received some information from town council, and late this afternoon, and I haven't had a chance to review that. But something that just comes to mind, looking at the job description, for the town administrator, it does include prepares periodic reports to the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee on expected revenues and expenditures of the town and on the town's general financial condition, advises the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Capital Planning Committee in developing long-range plans for the town, including a multi-year forecast of revenues and expenditures, a capital expenditure plan, etc. That sounds a lot, Mr. Chairman, about what you were saying, that we have a need for somebody filling that position. Obviously, going forward financially, we don't know what we're going to be dealing with. And I'm just wondering if we give some thought to, rather than hiring an additional person for that, if that is something that maybe you could provide some guidance to our town administrator to work so that maybe he could take some of that responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm personally open to a lot of conversation. My personal concern, and I think town council's opinion, legal opinion articulates it quite clearly, is there was, I think, some confusion as to where the executive authority lies. And my opinion is Mass General Law was clear, and I think town council's opinion makes it clear that it continues to remain with the board. But in terms of other positions, yeah, I think we're going to have some conversations, or we should have some conversations over the next couple of weeks, because the economy is in a dire situation right now. And I personally don't know if it makes any sense to be adding any positions at this time, where communities across the Commonwealth are beginning the process of furloughs and layoffs.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, Mr. Chairman. And perhaps with a little creativity, we can try to cover some of those areas that the, the government study pointed out without going to having to, actually hire anybody new.
Yeah, I think the same would apply for HR, where Mr. Waters has HR certifications.
Right.
So, all right. So is that a motion, Ms. Riley, to take this under advisement?
I don't want to cut the discussion if somebody else wants to comment first, but as far as I'm concerned, unless someone wants to, have anything, say anything at this point, I would make a motion to table.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
it's good to hear his perspective, and I think we can all do our due diligence, and we'll give you a chance to review town council's opinion and perhaps take this back up in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
I'll make that motion to table for 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right, do I have a second?
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Next is the administrative duties, approval of the town of Raynham invoice and payroll warrants. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then approval of Raynham police invoice and payroll warrants. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
And I will abstain. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 2-0 to 1. All right. That is all we have for the regular session. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, enter executive session for the 3 posted reasons, and then we would adjourn with no business thereafter.
And I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, and for the records, according to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21, Purpose 3, a request for classification, Section 21, Purpose 2, contract proposal for the treasurer collector, and Section 21, Purpose 3, discussions on ongoing contract negotiations with OPEIU, Local 6, and Raynham Patrolmen and Signal Operators Unions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.